Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. I hope you are doing well. It is Thursday evening. It's nearly the weekend. I hope you all are looking forward to the weekend and are having a great week so far. We are here to sit down and talk about the latest Everton news once again. There's been a bit of news over the last 24 hours or so that has caused some discussion, shall we say. Certainly a lot of disagreement on social media platforms, certainly a lot of discussion on social media platforms, so we're going to sit down and talk about that. We're also going to talk about the fact that Everton have returned to Finch Farm this morning for pre-season. A number of the first team squad have returned to Finch Farm, other than those players, of course, that were on international duty or still are on international duty. In the case of James Garner and Jared Branthwaite, Sean Dyche has returned to Finch Farm. We've seen some new training gear. We've heard a couple of transfer rumours. We're going to get into all of it in today's live stream. So if you are involved and you are watching live, please do get involved in the live comments. Have your say. Let us know your thoughts on everything that we are going to discuss, and we'll try and get involved with as many of those live comments as we possibly can. If you enjoy the live stream, please do leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new as well. That means an absolute massive amount to me and does go a long way. But let's get straight into it anyway. Let's not dilly-dally around. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's get straight into the main topic of conversation today. The topic of conversation amongst all Evertonians on social media for the last 24 hours or so. And that is that Everton youngster is... me brain absolutely turned off then. Everton youngster Ishi Samuel-Smith is set to join Chelsea in a deal worth around £3 to £4 million. He is set to sign a 3-year contract. Fabrizio Romano reports that it is a done deal, done and sealed, and the documents are now signed for Chelsea to complete the deal for the 17-year-old talent. Now, when this was first brought up last night and first reported on social media, I believe it was Paddy Boylan and The Athletic that had first reported that the deal had been agreed with Chelsea. There was rumours a week or so ago that Chelsea and Manchester United were both keeping an eye on Ishi Samuel-Smith, who of course does have a twin with him currently at Everton. And, you know, when we read those rumours, it was sort of, again, we see every year, teams being interested in young players, and whether or not anything actually comes of it is another question. So I didn't really pay too much attention to it, if I'm being honest with you. At the time of those rumours, I was more interested in Everton getting rid of the previous board members, getting new board members in, bringing in some first team players, and actually planning, ahead to the new season to avoid, obviously, another relegation battle next season. But as I said, almost out of the blue, last night we read from Paddy Boylan and The Athletic that this deal is almost completed. Fabrizio Romano reporting earlier on this morning that it is a done deal, and Ishi Samuel-Smith will join Chelsea for a figure of around £3 to £4 million. Now, this, as I'm sure you will have seen if you have been on Twitter over the last 24 hours, or if you have been on Threads, which is the new social media app by Instagram, which you can follow us on. I believe our @ is MightyBlues EFC. Little bit of a shameless plug there, but we've downloaded it, and why not plug it? Why not go and follow us over there? But I'm sure you will have seen the the discussion and the conversation surrounding this deal and surrounding this situation. And for me, I think a lot of what I've been reading is seemingly Evertonians that are surprised at this situation, which is surprising to me. Now, look, do we want to be in a position where we're forced to sell our young talent for, 4 million quid, 3 million quid in order to fund our first team transfers in a summer transfer window? No, we don't want to be in that position, and we shouldn't be in a position where we're needing to sell the future of the football club in order to fund the presence of the football club. But I read a really good tweet last night by El Bretland, who is an Evertonian on Twitter. I'm sure if you've been on Twitter for a while, you'll have seen him. And he tweeted that Everton are selling the future to to improve the present because of the mistakes of the past, and that is exactly what is happening. But that isn't surprising whatsoever. We knew going into this summer transfer window that Everton were in an absolutely terrible position financially. We knew that we were never going to have an awful lot of money to spend, and whatever money we did have to spend was likely going to be from transfer, negotiations or deals that we'd done this summer, i.e. selling players and then bringing that investment in to reinvest back into bringing new players in. And, we knew that money was always going to be an issue, hence why we read 4 or 5 days ago that the main reason Everton didn't sign Conor Cody from Wolverhampton Wanderers was because of finances, and Conor Cody had a buy-in clause of £4.5 million. So if the reason we didn't spend £4.5 million on Conor Cody was because of finances, that gives you the impression and tells you that we haven't got £4 million to just waste, which again furthers the point that financially we are in an absolute mess. But that isn't something that comes as a surprise. That isn't something that is just all of a sudden come up, and last night, yesterday afternoon, we all thought we were going to be able to spend 150 million this summer, and then all of a sudden we've found out that we're not in that position. We've known for months and months and months that Everton are hamstrung because of the financial fair play issues and the current financial fair play dispute that is ongoing, and we've known that any money that Everton spend this summer is likely going to be money that is being recouped from selling players. Now, obviously there's a massive argument as to where is the £40 million that we brought in from Anthony Gordon in January, and maybe we'll see that this summer. Maybe that is, £40 million that is being used to bid for El Bilal's Toure, who is being rumoured over the last couple of days or so. But for me, whilst it's not ideal that Everton are in this position, and whilst I understand and appreciate the frustration that we are in this position, like I said, this isn't a surprise. And for me, £4 million for a 17-year-old lad who has never kicked the ball at a senior level, I repeat, never kicked the ball at a senior level, is not the worst deal in the world. Whilst it is frustrating that we're in this position in the first place, and it is frustrating that we're in this position in the first place, and it further reinforces the fact that the owner of this football club is a complete and utter clown and has not got a clue how to run a football club, and neither have the people that he has employed over the last 5, 6, 7 years to do that job. Whilst it reinforces all of those points, that doesn't really matter. What matters is £4 million going to help Everton improve their first team squad this summer? Yes, it is. Would Samuel-Smith be anywhere near Everton's first team next season if he was to stay? No, he wouldn't. I'm seeing some people on social media saying, well, we need a backup to Mykolenko and we could do with a new left-back, etc., etc. Listen, you all know my feelings on Vitaly Mykolenko. I think he's bang average at best. And if Everton can afford to go out and buy a left-back this summer after we've bought 2 strikers and a winger and a couple of midfielders and a couple of centre-backs and a goalkeeper, then yes, I would like us ideally to go out and buy a first-team left-back. That first-team left-back is not Izzy Samuel-Smith. Now, Izzy Samuel-Smith is an incredibly, incredibly highly rated young lad and is doing fantastic for his age and very well may become a fantastic left-back in the coming years. But we cannot afford to take the risk on rejecting that money that will undoubtedly go to improving the first team on the basis that in 2-3 years' time, because let's be honest, he's 17 years old, he's never kicked the ball at senior level, and by that what I mean is he's only ever played at youth level. He's never had a loan out to League 2 or League 1 or the Championship, and as we all know, whilst he may be absolutely fantastic at academy level at the moment, and he may be really, really highly rated. Of course he is, otherwise teams like Manchester City and Chelsea wouldn't be interested in him. The difference in the level from academy football, even to League 1 football, is huge. It's much more difficult to go and play in League 1 than it is at academy level. The difference from League 1 to the Championship is humongous, and the difference from the Championship to the Premier League is gargantuan. So whilst Izzy Samuel-Smith may well go on and be a Premier League left-back in the coming years, and he certainly looks like he's got the talent to do so, that would be a risk. And Everton financially aren't in the position to take that risk, whether we like it or not, whether we're happy with it or not. We aren't in the position to financially take that risk. If he was to stay at Everton, he wouldn't be in and around the first team for at least another 2 years. He would have to go out on loan this season, likely go out on loan the season after. You know, maybe a League One loan this season and then a Championship loan the season after. And then at 19 years old, we'd have to sit down and go, right, are you ready to be a Premier League footballer? Now, he very well may be. What I will tell you is he'll never play a game of footy for Chelsea. He'll never play a game of football for Chelsea. And that's not me having a go at Samuel Smith for his decision. That's not me saying that he'll never be good enough. But, you know, Chelsea have got 2 left-backs currently at their football club and they cost them £110 million. Chilwell was 50, Cucurella was 60. They ain't playing Ishii Samuel Smith in that first team. If, you know, Cucurella and Chilwell don't become good enough, they'll just go out and buy another £70 million left-back. So unless Ishii Samuel Smith somehow becomes the best left-back in the world on the various loan deals that he will go on at Chelsea, he ain't getting in that Chelsea team. Now, that's not me saying he won't be good enough or he won't be a good enough left-back. My point is that we need the money now. It's a similar argument to the discussion I had about Amadou Onana a couple of weeks ago, when I said, listen, Amadou Onana may well be worth 150, 200 million pounds in the next 2 years. However, if Everton had offered 60 for him now, we should absolutely snatch their hands off for it, because there's no good having Amadou Onana as a 200 million pound player in 3 years' time, but Everton in the Championship because we didn't have the money to reinvest this season when we needed it. No good. No good. So whilst these players may have potential, and whilst these players may, in 3-4 years' time, be worth much more than what they are now, the fact is, Everton need the money now. And Everton need that money to reinvest into the first team. And the way I would look at this is an example of a player that Everton have been linked with that would cost around £3 or £4 million, which is the figure that we are bringing in for Ishii Samuel Smith, is Rodrigo from Leeds. Now, I know a lot of people don't want Rodrigo from Leeds, 32 years old, you know, the wrong business model, etc., etc. He scored 13 Premier League goals last season. If Rodrigo comes in and even halves that tally and gets 6 or 7 Premier League goals next season, and those 6 or 7 Premier League goals are enough to comfortably see us stay in this division, is that worth more to Everton than keeping hold of Ishii Samuel Smith, who will either play in the academy next season or will go out on loan? He will not play a second of first team football next season if he stays at Everton. Even if Vitaly Mykolenko gets injured, he will not play a second of first team football. How many 17-year-olds do you know currently that play in the Premier League? Tell me. How many 17-year-olds at any football club play in the Premier League? I'm not saying he's not talented. I'm not saying he won't in 4 or 5 years' time be a Premier League left-back. Look at Anthony Robinson. He left when he was young for a couple of £1 million, went to Wigan, he's now gone to Fulham, and, you know, ultimately he's doing brilliant now, and he's touted to be worth 25, 30 million pounds, and seems like Manchester City are interested in him, etc., etc. Again, it could happen. It very well could happen. But that was when Anthony Robinson was 3, 4, 5 years older than what he was when he was at Everton. How many players do you know that have been unbelievable prospects at 16, 17 years old and then have gone on to do nothing with their career for various different reasons? As I said, Ishii Samuel Smith looks fantastic and is undoubtedly a really, really, really good talent. And I understand and I appreciate the sort of frustration and the anger that is built on the back of Everton having to sell their talented players to be able to fund their first team squad. But the reality is that's the situation that we are in. And I don't really care whether we like it or not. £4 million for a 17-year-old kid who's never kicked the ball seniorly in senior football is not the worst deal in the world. It isn't. Especially when there's proven Premier League goal scorers out there for a similar price. And I'm not saying we should go and sign Rodrigo off the back of this. I'm not saying Rodrigo's the perfect, player to come in. But I'm just saying that money will go towards improving our first team next season. And that, for me, is paramount. improving our first team for me is paramount. It really, really is. And do you know what? Do you know if you were to say to me now, Cam, Issy Samuel-Smith goes to Chelsea, and in the next 3 years, when he's 20 years old, he's the best left back in the league. He's worth 300 million quid, and he's won league titles and everything. I'd say, okay, but did that £4 million we got for him, did that go towards improving the team? And did Everton then stay in the Premier League and stabilise themselves for the future? And if you said, well, yeah, I'd go, well, sound. Because that's the decision we had to make at that time. Is Issy Samuel-Smith going to play for Everton next season? No, he isn't. Whether he stays or he didn't, he wasn't going to play for Everton next season. And the calls of he can be a backup to Mykolenko, he should start in front of Mykolenko. Let's be perfectly honest with ourselves here, and I'm not trying to have a go at anybody, or I'm not trying to offend anybody's intelligence, but let's be perfectly honest about this. 48 hours ago, hardly any of us would have known who Issy Samuel-Smith was. I knew of him, I knew his name, I knew little bits about him from people I'd spoke to who watch academy football, but I'd never watched them play. I couldn't tell you whether he was worth 4 million, I couldn't tell you whether he was worth 40 million, and the majority of us would have been the same. I refuse to believe that every Evertonian that has been discussing this in the last 24 hours has watched Issy Samuel-Smith for the last 2 years and knows just how good he is. The majority of us would have never heard of him or would have known very, very little about him before this come up. And if I would have said to you all after that Bournemouth game, right, Everton are hamstrung for money here and are really, really needing every bit of investment that they can, and Chelsea are going to bid £4 million for an academy player none of you have ever heard of, most Evertonians would say, well, yeah, sell him, get rid, move him on. It is what it is. I get it. It's frustrating. I get it. We shouldn't be in this position. But also what you have to look at is sometimes the best ran football clubs in this country sell their young players for 6-7 million quid. I remember sitting here on this channel a couple of years ago and talking about the other lot's transfer policy with younger players, and sitting here saying, why can't we be like them? Why can't we get players from the academy and sell them on for, 7, 8, 9 million quid, when they've not even kicked the ball professionally? Why can't we do that? Well, we've done that now to a degree, and we're still not happy with it. Now, okay, £4 million isn't, life-changing amounts of money in terms of football transfers. It is life-changing amounts of money for any one of us, but I mean in terms of, the football pyramid at the moment, £4 million isn't it's not like we're getting rid of him for 30 or 40. However, for the position that Everton are in at the moment, £4 million is huge. £4 million is huge. And also another part of this that I don't think many people are talking about or many people are looking into is Issy Samuel-Smith himself might have decided he wants to move to Chelsea. He might have looked at Everton's pathway or lack of pathway for younger players and thought, no, do you know what? I do want to move to Chelsea. Now, I don't know what he sees in Chelsea's pathway because they haven't got a potential, they haven't got a particularly good, past of breeding through younger players, given they've just spent about £1 billion in the last 6 months. But he might have looked at it and gone, no, I think I'm going to get a better opportunity at Chelsea. Or he might get better loan moves at Chelsea, or he might get better coaching at Chelsea. Or, here's an idea, he might be getting a lot more money at Chelsea than what he's getting at Everton. There's this assumption that Issy Samuel-Smith is desperate to stay at Everton, and Everton have gone, nah, you're all right, go away. He might have come to Everton and said, don't want to be here, want to move to Chelsea. And if that's the case, and you've got a 17-year-old kid who's still incredibly immature in his ways and will likely be, making decisions that maybe he will regret in 5-6 years' time. Maybe he won't, but maybe he will. And you can get £4 million for him. Then I don't really see the massive issue in this. And that's not me defending the football club. By the way, I said this on Twitter last night, and I had a couple of people saying, oh, you're defending the, Machete, you're defending the football club. Anybody that watches this channel and has watched this channel over the last 5 years of me doing it will know I do not defend Everton Football Club. I've said things on this channel that I maybe shouldn't have said about the people in charge of Everton Football Club, because that's how much I despise these people. Not the new people, because they're just interim, but the previous board and the owner and the chairman, I absolutely despise them for what they've done to our football club. So I'm not defending Everton for the sake of defending Everton here. I'm just calling a spade a spade. And that's exactly what this situation is. Whether we like it or not, we are on the bones of our arse financially. And we need as much money coming into the football club this summer as we possibly can. And if we can sell a young lad who's never kicked the ball at a senior level, 17 years old, for £4 million, and that £4 million can go and be reinvested into the first team to improve us for next season, then that is what it is. We've got to do what we've got to do. It's as simple as that. Hopefully, Everton Football Club have been clever enough to put a sell-on clause in there so that if he goes for 50 million quid in, or 40 million quid in 5 years' time, we've got a 12% sell-on clause or whatever it may be, and we get a few million back for him. Hopefully, whether we've done that or not, we'll wait and see. But hopefully that is the case. But for me, I have always been the same, in my opinion, that I don't care if you are Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I don't care if you are Richarlison, I don't care if you are Jordan Pickford, I don't care if you are James Rodriguez, I don't care if you are Leighton Baines, I don't care if you are Seamus Coleman, I don't care if you are Ishii Samuel-Smith, I don't care if you are Tyus Browning. If you do not want to play for Everton Football Club and you want to leave Everton Football Club, then there is the door. Because this football club is in enough shit without keeping hold of players that aren't absolutely 1000% committed and want to be here. So if Ishii Samuel-Smith wants to leave Everton Football Club, then there's not even a conversation point. There's a massive conversation about the way in which this football club is ran and the fact that we're in a position where young talents want to leave, but that is all part of the overall discussion of how badly we've been treated as a football club by the people that are in charge. But in this specific situation, if he does not want to be here, for whatever reason, because he's getting more money at Chelsea, because he doesn't believe the pathway is clear enough for a young player, or just because he doesn't want to be here, then what's the point in keeping a hold of him? And if we can get £4 million for him, then sound. Is it disappointing? Yes, it is disappointing. But can I just ask a question? How many of us Evertonians watched Fulham every week last season and watched Anthony Robinson and sat there going, that's gutting that. It's gutting that he was at Everton and then he left and then he went and done well, at Wigan, done well at Fulham, and now he's one of the best left backs in the league last season. I think there's an argument for. No, we looked at him and went, oh, he's done well for himself. They're a good player, and maybe we should have kept a hold of him. And it will be the same with Ishii Samuel-Smith. This is very, very different to if Ishii Samuel-Smith was 19, 20 years old and was in Everton's first team and was quite evidently, one of our standout players. It's very different to when Wayne Rooney left the football club. It's very different to when Ross Barkley left the football club. Ishii Samuel-Smith is 3 years away minimum, 2 years, 3 years away minimum from probably even being considered an Everton first team player. Because, pardon me, regardless, regardless of how highly rated he is, regardless of how highly thought of he is, and how well he's doing, he ain't got the experience as a senior player. He's not been out on loan. He's not played in the Championship. He's not played in League One. So, without that, and there is exceptions of players that don't necessarily go out on loan, just get straight into your first team, your Wayne Rooney's, etc. But is Ishii Samuel-Smith that type of player? Is he that good that he could get in Everton's first team? I don't know. I'd say no, because otherwise he'd be there, wouldn't he? He'd be there. So, yeah, again, for me, I get it. I get the frustration, and I get the overall anger at the fact that we are in the position that we need to sell these players. But as I said, I'm seeing a lot of people on social media saying, "Oh, well, he could be the backup to Mykolenko. He could even start in front of Mykolenko." Those points are only being brought up because he's going to Chelsea for £4 million. If this deal wasn't in place and this had never been a thing, nobody would be saying, Issy Samuel-Smith should really be our starting left back here. We wouldn't, because we'd all be going, 17 years old, he's too young, he needs to go out and get experience. So yeah, it's disappointing. Yeah, it's frustrating. And yes, it is another example of the position that Everton are in as a football club, which is, at the moment, seemingly a perilous position. And for all of the disagreement last night on social media surrounding this deal, I think one thing we can all agree on is our football club has been truly, truly ruined by those that are in charge of it. And I'm not sure we'll ever get our football club back. I'm really, really not. I'm really not. Again, I have nothing against Issy Samuel-Smith. I wish him the best of luck, and I hope he does go on and become a really, really good, talented left back that plays in the Premier League, etc., etc. But the reality is, at the moment, we need that money. Yes, it's disappointing that we're in this position, and yes, we shouldn't be in the position where we're asset stripping the young players to fund players for the current team because we're skint, but we are. And I'd love to sit here and say this will be a lesson for Moshiri and the people in charge to look at and go, oh my God, we're actually having to sell our young players here to bring in players for the first team because financially we're in that bad of a position. But it won't, because they never learn their lessons because they're incapable of learning lessons. So, like I said, I'm not sticking up for Everton Football Club by any sense of the imagination because I don't, you will all know if you've watched this channel for a while, I don't stick up for Everton. I've got no affiliation with Everton. I pay for my season ticket. They don't give me anything. They've never emailed me. They've never offered to do anything for me or the channel or any exclusive interviews or anything for the channel. They've never offered anything like that. So I couldn't give a shit what Everton Football Club think of me and think of this channel and think of what I say. I've got no reason to defend Everton, and I never will defend Everton if they don't need defending. But I just think at the minute, there's a lot of uproar about this at the moment and not a lot of logical thinking. And the logical thinking is, as I've just said, yes, incredibly talented and yes, incredibly thought of, highly thought of, but £4 million is £4 million and we need as much money as we possibly can. And he still is 2 or 3 years away minimum, even if he was to stay. Even at Chelsea, he's still 2-3 years minimum away from being a Premier League defender. It's as simple as that. So, yeah, I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on this. And, what you all think about it. Do you agree with me? Are you upset? Are you not that arsed? Are you actually quite happy that we've managed to make some money back on a young player? What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the live comments before we finish. And then if you're watching it as a YouTube video, let us know in the comments section down below. Pardon me. Jack the Lad says 2013-14 team had a few youngsters in the starting 11 and got 5th. Why has the club gone away from that? Just being older players with no selling. I get that. And I get the understanding of that. And, the general, as I said, overall point that Everton, without a doubt, are in a absolutely dreadful position at the moment, both financially and in terms of our strategies, our transfer strategies. And I get that, selling a 17-year-old to buy a 32-year-old is almost backwards in terms of long-term thinking. But Everton have to plan for the short term as well. Whilst we all want the football club to plan for the long term, we all also need to accept that they need to plan for the short term. Because if we don't plan for the short term, we might not be a Premier League team in the long term. So, and also when we talk about that team having young players, we're talking about 21, 22-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds, not 17-year-old kids. Didn't have a 17-year-old kid in there running the show, did they? So, yeah. Yeah. We'll wait and see how this one goes. But I really, really want to know your thoughts on this subject. I really, really want to know. Anyway, Everton have today returned to Finch Farm for the first day of pre-season. Players like Dwight McNeil, Ben Godfrey, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, James Tarkowski, all have returned alongside manager Sean Dyche to complete or to begin their pre-season preparations for the new season. Seamus Coleman as well has been at Finch Farm. Delhi returned to Finch Farm earlier on today. I believe he was one of the first to be in the door, which is great and shows that he clearly has gotten an interest in improving his fitness, his chances of being in Sean Dyche's plans for at least the pre-season games upcoming and obviously maybe for the season as well. We have had some new training gear revealed. It looks very similar to the one of last season, but with a little bit more detail in it. Looks quite nice. I'm quite a fan of it. We'll obviously showcase it when it is actually released on the website for people to buy, because it isn't released on the website for people to buy at the moment. But yeah, you know, as I've mentioned, good to see everybody back, or certainly, you know, everybody we expected to be back. Like I said at the start of the season, there are still a number of players that will obviously be away because of internationals and things like that. But good to see, you know, those that we expected to be back. And hopefully we see more pictures and hear more interviews and stuff over the coming days and weeks before, obviously, that game next week, I believe it is, in Switzerland. So, again, good stuff. I'd like to have seen a couple of new faces that we hadn't seen before, walk through the doors at Finch Farm today, but maybe that's just expecting too much from Everton. Why would Everton sign new players before the 6th of July? Why would we do that? We need to sign new players before the end of pre-season. We can't be in the position again where players are making their debut in the final pre-season game against Spawn like we were last season. We need to have players in, you know, ASAP really, and hopefully by this time next week we've seen more movement on that. In terms of new signings, we have had one new signing today. Everton confirmed earlier on this morning that Andy Lonergan had signed a 1-year contract extension. Again, happy days for me. Ultimately we've already lost Asmir Begovic this summer, so losing another sort of experienced goalkeeper at the football club would have been a problem for me. I still think we need to go out and bring in a number 2, an experienced number 2, because I think ultimately Andy Lonergan is probably the position that he's in as a number 3 goalkeeper is probably correct. I don't think he can be anything more than that. But yeah, again, no issue with this. He was obviously offered the contract a couple of weeks ago, and you know, like I said, good news that he has ultimately signed that contract and will be a part of the first team going forward. That he seems to be a good personality. The reason I say that is because ultimately I don't know him, I've never met him, but he seems from what I've read and from what I've heard to be somebody that is very well liked and respected around the club, and he clearly brings some experience, some needed experience, pardon me, not only for the younger goalkeepers but for Jordan as well. So yeah, good stuff there, and you know, obviously leaves us with one less problem. We still need to go out and buy a goalkeeper, but at least we don't need to go out and buy 2. Everton today have launched the next phase of the all matchday experiences at the club's iconic new Waterfront Stadium. There are 4 innovative and compelling socialising and dining experiences available at Dock on 1, the Yard, Boa Vista, the Blue Line and Merchants. They are effectively bars and restaurants that will be available at the new stadium. Obviously, a big part of the stadium build was, sort of dining areas and bars and places for people to socialise before and after games and socialise on the campus, so they're not far away from the stadium. And yeah, that has been confirmed today, which is good news. And then finally, according to Graham Bailey, Everton are amongst a number of Premier League sides interested in Newcastle United winger Alan St-Maximum. Yeah, I think this screams of St-Maximum's agent throwing his name out there and ultimately throwing Everton's name out there to maybe try and rile up some some interest from other Premier League clubs. I can't see Everton signing Alan St-Maximin. I think he would cost far too much money. I don't think his output would warrant the money that we'd have to spend on him, and the position financially that we're in, as we've just discussed, selling a 17-year-old for £4 million would suggest that we wouldn't even be able to afford him anyway. So yeah, I wouldn't have him personally. I just think he doesn't offer enough for what we'd have to pay for him. He is on his day, better than anybody that we've got, but again, he's incredibly inconsistent and a little bit like Damari Gray. He doesn't have his day often enough for me. But yeah, thought it was an interesting rumour anyway to have a little bit of a discussion about. So there you go. That is the latest Everton news and rumours. Let us know your thoughts on everything that we've spoken about in today's live stream. Let us know your thoughts on the Ishii Samuel-Smith stuff. Are you agreeing with me in the fact that we are where we are and we have to take the money? Or do you think that Everton should have kept a hold of him and just rejected the bid? Let us know your thoughts on the future of Delhi and obviously whether you think he will have a future under Sean Dyche, and let us know your thoughts, of course, on Alan St-Maximin. Would you have him at Everton, or do you think it's just another nonsense transfer rumour? Before we go, I want to congratulate James Garner and Jared Branthwaite for making the under-21s Euros final with England. That will be played tomorrow, I believe. And yet they won last night to confirm their place. So massive congratulations to them too. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. If you have enjoyed it, please do leave a like. It does only take a second if you are new to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. We will be back over the next couple of days with more news and rumours, so don't forget to look out for that. But until then, big thank you all for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you later.